Do you guys know about Airbnb squatters? Have you heard of this?
No.
I feel like this is something you would have come across at some
Yeah,
point.
this, my interest has
somehow-
been piqued. Okay.
So my friend Devin, her husband is one of the world's leading experts on dolphins. So every year he takes a group of graduate students to various research projects. Right now he is in Atlanta with some graduate students. So they're going to be there for a month. They decided to rent an Airbnb, of course.
Okay.
So they can make their meals, they have their own space.
Yeah.
They get to Atlanta. The Airbnb is occupied by the previous renters, and they won't leave.
They won't leave.
I thought you were going to say it's occupied by dolphins.
That'd be better. Dolphin squatters.
It's the dolphins of Atlanta. Yeah.
So it's a thing where people refuse to leave, and it takes a lot of effort, just like any rental, to get people out.
Really?
So Airbnb offered no support. They gave them a refund and said, "You're on your own. Good luck." And these squatters just stay there for as long as they want.
So they gave a refund to the people that rented it, and it's just on the owner of the place to be like,
Yeah.
good luck. But then they also said good luck to the people that were supposed to stay there.
Right, exactly. So
Double whammy.
They honestly, it doesn't hurt Airbnb, I guess. Well, no, because then they don't get the revenue for the because the
Anymore.
people, the people who own
It's a dead property for them.
you're killing our Airbnb dreams.
Well, it's just something for Airbnb and renters to be aware of.
Yeah.
Do you want an Airbnb, or have you wanted an Airbnb at some point, personally?
I think maybe that's my other half who's more interested in that. It seems like a pipe dream.
So
but
Wheeler, same question.
Would I be interested? So here's the thing. I am not interested in the sweat equity, I guess. Like, I don't know that I really want to deal with it.
Okay.
Right? Like, I don't know if anybody has capacity in their lives. Like, we're all pretty busy people. And then, like, having to deal with, like... Squatters, or just
I had no idea that could be a
anything, right? But it does make, a vacation property more affordable.
That it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we, when my parents were growing up, they had a vacation spot in Colorado. And they used to rent it. Airbnb wasn't around at the time, but they used to rent it to people. And they were really excited because, they could get this place and then they'd rent it out, which would help pay for it and whatnot. But whenever we'd go back to stay in it, it would be like trashed, and then like the stuff that they had there would get damaged. And in my mom's opinion, it tainted the vacation house dream. So
That's
they
my concern.
stopped renting it.
Yeah.
But
it seems like so much work.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's worth the effort.
I agree. And I like Airbnbs. I like the experience of going to these places sometimes.
Right.
But other times I'm like, I wish I'd just gone to a hotel.
Right. Like another
True.
example,
Yeah.
last month I took my mom on a little mother-daughter getaway, our first time ever.
Oh, fun.
And we rented this phenomenal, beautiful home right on the coast near Booth Bay Harbor, Maine.
Sweet.
So it was the off season still, which is how we could afford this huge place, way, way bigger than what the two of us needed. But we show up, we're looking around, it's gorgeous. We're
Yeah.
like, is this real? And then, well, problem number one, this was not the worst problem. Half the windows would not open. And it was to the point where there were stickers on all of the windows that said, "Do not open." So the owners knew this was a problem. You have this beautiful coastal property. You can't open the windows. There's no AC, so you can't get a cross breeze. Then we try to set up the fans to get a cross breeze. Half the fans are filthy and or broken.
Okay.
So, all right, still not the worst problem. Then we go to do some dishes in the kitchen. There's no hot water in the kitchen. No hot water. So I put on my plumbing hat. I get under the sink. Really have no idea what I'm doing, but I managed to find...
Did you YouTube it?
No, I didn't even do that, but I figured out where the hot water was coming from. I saw it was turned off. I turned it on. Great, problem solved. Except there's a waterfall. So water comes gushing out.
Solve the problem, but not.
But not. So I turn it back off and managed to do a few dishes by turning it on and furiously doing the dishes and then turning it back off. I then say, I'm going to solve this problem. I'll contact the person who owns this place. I call the only number that was available, a 1-800 number.
That's not a good sign.
No real person.
No.
I was then looped through this whole long thing only to get a chatbot who told me that the issue would be escalated to the local level and they would send out someone to fix the problem.
Meanwhile, we've been talking on our last few podcasts about how AI is going to take over the world.
Right. Well,
We didn't say it would be a better world.
That's
right?
true.
so I think this is an opportunity for places like Airbnbs to really stand out in the industry, because if you can have an actual human to talk to, it will make you stand out, because this is the wave of the future where you're not going to be able to talk to a human. But if you can, that's your selling point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we also know people that they are trying to get medical help.
Right.
And they're getting pushed to chatbots.
Exactly.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's so I don't think chatbots qualify as AI to me. I feel like that's like first wave AI. It's like we've had chatbots for over a decade, right? So I feel like the type of AI that we're facing in the future is more than just like a bad chatbot or a bad.
Well, hopefully it's
automated
a better chatbot.
Yeah, exactly. At the very least, it's a
Yes.
bad.
But if AI is supposed to make your life easier and solve problems,
Yeah.
but you can't actually solve problems with it, then that's when you need an actual human to talk to.
So, getting back to the Airbnb thing, though, and the squatters,
Yeah.
how are they going to get these people out?
They're not. I don't know. I don't know how Airbnb or the owners will get them out, but my friend's husband had to scramble and find a new place with his whole team of graduate students. They had to stay at a hotel for a couple of nights.
How many people is this?
I'm not sure exactly, but it's a good number,
a group.
including a support dog. So
Oh,
they had to
gosh.
find a place that is also pet friendly. So imagine this. You go to rent a house with a group of friends. You have spent so much time researching. You find the perfect place. You have a pet friendly place. You can bring your dog. You get there. Sometimes you have to travel by air.
Right.
You're in a new city, only to find that you're on the streets. You have nowhere to
Putski.
stay unless you can afford a hotel. In this case, they're doing research with the Atlantic Aquarium. The aquarium helped them find a new spot.
It's in the aquarium lobby with cots.
Right.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Compound Growth Podcast with Colin and Wheeler, where we talk all things growth. From financial growth to career growth, personal development to societal progress, we explore how each layer builds on the next, compounding over time to shape who we become. Each week, we break down complex ideas and emerging trends into clear, actionable insights. Because growth isn't just about numbers, it's about understanding the world and our place in it. The information in this material is for general information only, and is not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Investment advice offered through Integrated Partners, doing business as Ko-Fi Advisors LLC, a registered investment advisor. Integrated Partners does not provide legal, tax, mortgage, advice, or services. Please consult your legal tax advisor regarding your specific situation. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. The economic forecasts set forth in this material may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that the strategies promoted will be successful. Well, we have a new voice with us today, obviously, unless we put on that special filter that allows Colin to put
We'll
his high
save that
voice
for the
on.
end. Yeah.
So Jessica Crowley is a certified professional coach, burnout prevention strategist, and the founder of the Amalgamation Coaching and Community. Now, I've written a bio for Jessica. She's hearing this for the first time, which is a fun exercise.
That should be good.
And I'm looking forward to being corrected with anything that's I say here. She has over 15 years of multidisciplinary experience spanning interior design, higher education, and nonprofit leadership. She brings deeply human-centered approach to helping individuals and organizations prevent burnout and rediscover joy in their personal and professional lives. Through her coaching, speaking engagements, and widely read writing on Substack, Jessica challenges the toxic hustle culture by offering actionable strategies rooted in values alignment, boundary setting, and authentic belonging. Jessica,
Nailed it.
welcome to the
said-
podcast.
Thank you.
A+.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Did ChatGPT write that?
No. ChatGPT is a thought partner
I see.
who
Okay.
read all of her writing in 10 seconds.
But Wheeler, it's like you've known me my whole life.
Yes, it's like that. So Jessica Crowley, relation. Jessica is my wife and life partner, the mother of our wonderful daughter, and the smarter person who lives in our household. So we're looking forward to benefiting from her unique experience and intelligence and perspective today. And we're going to be talking about burnout, and we're going to be talking about rest and the importance of rest, and what is rest and what is burnout, and all these fun things. Colin and I have talked about these topics broadly speaking, but you are the expert in this area. So we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say today.
Well, I'm a devout listener of your podcast, so it's an honor to be here with you today as your first guest.
Our first guest, we are certainly setting the bar very high. So I'm sorry to all of our future guests.
So can I start with the first question?
Yes, please.
What is burnout?
What is burnout? I feel like it's something that almost everyone these days understands. If you go to a party and you talk about burnout, I think probably most of the people there would say, oh yeah, I know what that is. I'm in it. So I think it's something that if you are burned out, you really know it. You don't need to go online and take some sort of assessment to be told that you are experiencing burnout. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I think there's a few factors that you can consider when you're trying to decide, am I burned out? Am I just on the road to burnout? One of them is really a sense of depletion. So just total exhaustion and a sense that no matter what you do, it's never enough. Mm. And the second is a sense of disconnection. So maybe a sense of lack of purpose or meaning in the work that you're doing, and feeling like, again, if nothing is ever going to be enough, what is the point? And then the third factor is kind of despondency. So feeling like I just don't really care, my heart isn't in this, or pessimism. You show up to work negative every day, and you find yourself complaining a lot.
Almost a sense of just going through the motions to
Right.
go through the motions.
Exactly. So there's, a good kind of stress that allows us to accomplish the goals that we set out for ourselves and to make progress in the world. There's that kind of stress can then snowball, compound, if you will, into burnout when you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the things that I've found really interesting in learning, from afar through your work, is that burnout can come from multiple different sources in your life. It's not always your job, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you bring that up, because actually when it comes to burnout, the World Health Organization has recognized that it's an epidemic, which is great, except the way that they've defined burnout is that it's essentially an individual's failure to properly cope with work stresses. So they've only acknowledged work as the cause of burnout, problem number one. Problem number two is they're putting it on the individual to say it's your inability to manage what work is throwing at you. And instead, the way that I see burnout is actually systemic betrayal.
I read your blog last night, and you had a section in there where you were talking about that it was a system failure.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Right. So the reason this has become an epidemic is because it's caused by the culture that teaches us to hustle and grind. In order to feel value in this world, we have to measure our value by our net worth. So in that sense, it's never going to be enough, because no matter how much you do, no matter how much you make, there's always more that you can do and more money to be made.
Well, it's kind of like we always talk about, like running a business, and there's no end game. The journey is the growth of the business and working with clients and delivering better service. There's no end of it necessarily.
Right.
So you're always on that wheel, so to speak.
Yeah. So with that, burnout happens when you're just going and going and going and not pausing to take care of yourself, because you don't feel like you have the permission to do that.
Yeah. So what does pausing look like?
I think it's different for every person, sometimes it's easy to think, I'm just going to take that dream vacation and that's going to be the rest, the pause that I need to prevent burnout. What usually happens at the end of vacation, I mean, we just went on one.
Exhausted.
You come back needing a vacation from your vacation, but also you put so much effort and time and money into that vacation that coming back from it, first of all, you have so much to catch up on that it's overwhelming and stressful in and of itself. And also, it's never what you might have imagined, dreamed it would be, because unexpected things come up.
Yeah, or it could be so good that you have a hard time dealing with the fact that it's over.
Right. Reality sets in.
Right.
And you're like, okay, back to the grind. We talk about this. Like,
Right.
All right, back to the grind.
Rise and grind.
As if this has to be the way. But what's happening is that humans have slowly been treated like machines over time. We've taken humanity out of workers. And I think this is happening more and more as we move into the world of AI. But here's where AI, actually getting back to the point of AI can actually do some good for us when it comes to burnout, because it can take work off of people's plates and free them up to do what really matters and to have those human connections. So it's not about taking away jobs, but about taking work off of our plate.
Well, we've seen that with technology. I mean, and I think we may have talked about this in one podcast, but going back to the 1800s, it used to be a 7-day work week.
Yeah.
You know, and then the Industrial Revolution, the assembly line moved it to 6 days. And that was like one of Ford's big things, is you don't have to work every day. And then it moved into a 5-day work week eventually. And now, debatably, I mean, most companies and people we talk to are like at 4.5. So technology can do some good things to pare it back, but are you really recharging in your downtime?
Right. And I think also at the same time, there's a huge percentage of our population that has to work a number of gig jobs. So we're in the gig economy, and they're piecing together 2, 3, 4 different jobs and not getting benefits from any of them. So their ability to make more money comes from their time and energy to get out there and get in their Uber and pick up more people. Yeah. So it's really a matter of allowing yourself the time to take a day off, but some people can't afford to do that. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah, I feel like I've always thought of this as like I have a certain amount of energy in the bank every day, and it gets depleted through various activities, like, you know, through work or through parenting or through chores or through whatever, working out, right? It all kind of like depletes. And by the end of the day, especially when I get home before dinner, I hit this like lull. And I feel like you have a lull some point in the afternoon too.
I do.
And it's like, I'm feeling exhausted every single day. And then what do you do to recuperate? Jess will frequently say, go take a few minutes to yourself. And I'm like, well, what do I do in those few minutes? Like, do I go?
What can I get done?
I have a laundry list of things I want to achieve each day. Right. So that's, I think, helping people understand how to take care of themselves, what real self-care is. And also, maybe I would actually push back and say, maybe not everybody does know that they're burnt out, or maybe they're just failing to recognize. They might have some sort of feeling of unhappiness or unease or whatever it might be, but maybe understanding burnout more. Like when you say, are you burnt out, right? Like, or like if somebody's talking about their lives and you're like, that sounds like a lot. They're like, yeah, it's a lot, right? But having the conversation with somebody helps them realize that they're maybe burnt out. Right.
That's a good point. And this is one of the reasons why I do this work, because I think the more we talk about it and are really open and honest with each other about what we're experiencing, we can normalize it in the sense that it's a problem, that we don't have to just continue down this road of burnout, that there's a new kind of normal that we could strive for if we give each other permission to pause, to consider what you're going to take on. And so I think one of the biggest things is sometimes you can say no to opportunities that are handed to you. Sometimes you don't have that ability. Sometimes if you're in a certain position at work, you have to do what is told of you, right?
Right.
But we always have the ability to pause and to think about whether this is something that is going to feed your energy levels, or if it's going to deplete you, if it's something that has to happen immediately, or if it's something that you can put off into the end of the week, perhaps. But the boundary there is in the pause. And so at home, Wheeler and I do this with Michaela, where even just last night, she wanted an answer to a question, is it yes or no? And I said, if you need an answer right now, the answer is going to be no. If you can wait for us to discuss it, then it might be yes. It might still be no. But if you need an answer right now, it's going to be no.
There's a pause.
Yeah. There's your pause. There's your opportunity to rest. It might be a micro moment of rest. It doesn't have to be a huge, expensive vacation.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say the vacations aren't important, but you can't put all of your eggs in that one basket. You have to take daily, hourly moments of pause.
I'll say when it comes to vacation, I often look at vacation as more of an adventure than a recharge.
Right.
And if I was to look at it as a recharge event, I would almost feel as if there's too much pressure on that vacation to go a certain way. Versus if I see it as an adventure or something different, or even an expansion, you know, and a learning opportunity,
Right.
that to me alleviates the pressure from the vacation. Personally, for me, the recharge comes, I hit a lull in the afternoon, and then I'll try to block off some time to go for a run in the afternoon. And that's like my recharge time, where I'm not like talking to anybody. It's just me. It's quiet, and I'm just doing my thing. But it's different for everybody. But I found vacation, like you said, Wheeler, to actually sometimes not be a chore, but to be a stressful situation.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think,
Not that I don't love it.
yeah, everybody likes going on these adventures, that you say, or
Right.
But you've said something before that, you know, you have two types of vacation, where there's a vacation where you go somewhere new and do something exciting and explore the world, and there's a vacation where you go somewhere comfortable and familiar, and maybe there's less stress about that, around that area, because you have expectations going in based on prior experiences.
It's familiar.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a lot of value to that, like to having a place, a physical place, if it's a vacation spot or a part of your home or wherever you can be, where that place is a place of rest.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. On that front, so I guess if someone's trying to figure out kind of how to decompress and whatnot, what I hear from people all the time is like, I love my work. Like, I never want to do anything else. And they like lean into it. These are the same types of people that work like 60 hours plus a week, and they're sending emails at like 1:00 in the morning, and it's a thing.
Yeah. I think it's wonderful when you love your work so much that you're willing to put all your energy into it.
Yeah.
But that's not healthy,
No.
because you, just like with your portfolios, you want to be diversified. Because what happens, I've seen this with many people when they reach retirement and then they feel pointless, aimless. They don't know what to do with themselves because they've defined their whole life in their work. And you want to have a wide variety of things that bring you joy and fill you with peace and fulfillment.
And purpose.
Exactly.
Right? So that's something we've talked about, like ikigai, right?
Yes, exactly.
And purpose. And, you know, the concern that if we're moving into AI, or like, you know, we talked about UBI, Universal Basic Income, the other day, right? But if AI is doing all the work, and so many people attach their sense of purpose to the work, then they have to, in order to like live a fulfilled life, find a different area to feel fulfilled and purposeful.
Right. I think that it's great when work can give you a sense of purpose and fulfillment. And it's important to have other things in your life that fill you with a sense of purpose.
Yeah. I mean, people have been carving their names into stones and making statues for many, many years now. And I think everybody's going to want to have some sense of purpose. And I think the culture and framework that we have right now teaches you that your purpose is through work.
Right. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that burnout can come from all different areas of life. Again, not just work. That's the most traditional place that it comes from, but it can also come from the work that is unpaid, volunteer work, caregiving work. All of these things together when there's so much on your plate, it leads to burnout because there's not enough hours in the day.
What about other areas of the world that can contribute to that feeling of overwhelm? Like that feeling from, it could be the political climate, it could be just social media, it could be, I don't know. I feel like there are just all these different pressures on us now, and everything needs to be happening immediately.
Right.
I am the worst at this, where like if I have a question, I need to just pick up my phone and get the answer immediately.
Yeah.
And there's value to that, but there's also a loss of opportunity to just like sit in something.
Right.
You know?
Sit with the discomfort of not knowing something immediately.
I need to know everything all the time.
I know, Wheeler.
I also know that.
I think, yeah, we're living in a time when we have access to answers at our fingertips, and we can get the information immediately. And we can go on social media. The competition and the comparisons are fierce. You go on social media and the comparisons, you feel like everyone's lives are perfect. And so you think that you have to keep working harder and have the perfect job, the perfect family, the perfect vacation, when in reality, perfect isn't real. Perfect is a myth. But that's why I think it's important to talk about when we're experiencing burnout or challenges in our lives, because that's what makes us human.
So if you were to, this is a big unpack question. If you were to redesign the system, what would that look like?
That's a great question, Colin.
Thank you.
It would look like, first of all, to answer that question, I think I need to dispel a myth from a few episodes ago. Capitalism is not a dirty word to me.
So I actually did not say that capitalism was a dirty word to you specifically.
No, in our household.
In our household.
Let's be honest, our 11-year-old doesn't really have an opinion on capitalism.
There are limited roads on that comment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our cats don't really have an opinion on capitalism.
Snowball might have an opinion on capitalism. I don't
calling
know.
him Snowball.
You know
It's
what?
not his name, Colin.
Brian also thinks that Marshmallow is Snowball.
Marshmallow, sorry.
Yeah, it's
Marshmallow.
It
okay.
happens.
Yes.
Like everybody thinks his cat is named Snowball. It's really odd.
Maybe he goes by Snowball personally and you named him wrong.
Just to clear things up, I actually don't think capitalism is inherently bad or good. I think that capitalism exists on a spectrum, and that there's never a completely capitalistic or socialistic society. I think that societies exist on a spectrum. And so therefore there's different types of capitalism. And the capitalism that I don't agree with is the kind that puts other people's needs and wants aside in order for their own needs and wants to be met. I believe that I can participate in a free market system where I can have my needs met and many of my wants met, but not at the expense of other people. And also that we are a stronger, wealthier economy when we work and collaborate together and not compete with each other. And I actually have a great example of this right here on the Seacoast. So back in 2019, I discovered this little gem of a property that was not inhibited by anyone. It was just kind of run down into the ground, but you could tell it was this beautiful, like 1920s, roaring 20s kind of vibe, where back in the day it was beautiful. It's right on the water. And I thought to myself, someone needs to take this property and do something great with it. Then COVID hit and I forgot about little Carrie Cottage. And then a little while later, I read what happened to this beautiful property, Carrie Cottage. It was bought by some investors who ended up renovating the whole thing. Is now beautiful. And they started a startup think tank that inside Carrie Cottage now is this amazing organization called Good Work. And they help startups throughout the state of New Hampshire get their feet under them as they're starting a business. And they really help the businesses with everything from marketing to legal advice to business consulting. And the best part of this is that when it came to the startup beginning, they had a spot for one CEO. So they were interviewing for this CEO position, right? And they had a ton of great finalists. It came down to 2 finalists for the CEO position, these 2 highly qualified women. The 2 women got together and they said, you know what? This organization would be even stronger if it had not just a CEO, but also a COO. So instead of competing for the one position, they went to the investors and they said, we propose that one of us is CEO and one of us is COO. And yes, you'll have to pay us both, but here's what we will do with that money. And this was 5 years ago. And now Good Work is such a successful startup think tank that helps so many organizations throughout the state.
That's cool.
Because they collaborated instead of competing.
I like that. So if I'm to unpack that a little bit more, it sounds like you agree with capitalism so long as it's not at the expense of both the consumer and also the general basic population. Right. Because I agree with you. And I think regulation should be out there to say for companies, we want you to make money. We want you to be good. We want you to produce products, but not at the expense of everybody else. Exactly. Don't fuel up your profits by hurting other people.
Exactly. And I think this goes back to your question of how do we create a society where we create a solution to burnout? Mm-hmm. So I think it really comes down to putting humanity back into our society. And we can do that through ways like encouraging people to take 15 minutes for themselves throughout the day, or to be able to invest in professional development and allow people to have a life outside of work, to get to know your colleagues and care about each other, and to make sure that there's a sense of community where you actually care and can collaborate and not just go through the motions and grind.
So you just got back from a trip, both of you, overseas. Do you think that this is a U.S. problem, global problem? What were your observations when you were over there?
I think that given the technologies today, it used to be more of an American problem. I actually think now it is more of a global problem, which is why the World Health Organization got involved. And the latest stat I saw is that actually over 750,000 people per year globally die as a direct result of burnout. So this isn't just a problem of laziness or people not being willing to work hard. This is affecting people's health and lives. Yeah. And I think it's happening around the world because we're connected through technology and there's a sense of competition and countries trying to stay ahead of the curve. So it's not just happening here in the U.S.
I think that, I think we all appreciate the concept of leading by example. And I think when it comes to business, that's what the U.S. does. We lead in, we basically show how businesses should be run, in our opinion, right? And because we create such wealth and we have such successful businesses, other countries look to replicate that, right? One of the people we stayed with in London, she works for a French company domiciled in San Diego, and she lives in London, right? And she is balancing 3 different cultures, and she's doing it pretty well because they're not all that dissimilar, right? We can talk about how France loves to strike, for example, mm-hmm. or maybe some people who work in London like to go out and get a pint at lunch or whatever it might be. Like you have these ideas of cultural norms that are dissimilar from what we have here, but at the same time they're not really all that dissimilar because it's this constant need to increase wealth, or that you see the Joneses all around you in every country. It's just sometimes it's Senor Jones instead of Mr. Jones.
And speaking of the Joneses, I think the way that I look at this is about not keeping up with the Joneses, but walking with the Joneses.
Mm. Are the Joneses walking slowly enough that we can all walk with them?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
I mean, not feeling like you have to one-up everybody or to have the latest, greatest thing in order to be a person of value in society, but what the Joneses have is great for them, and what I have is great for me, and they don't have to be the same, but we can still walk together. And we
Right.
can get to know each other.
Yeah.
I think what's kind of interesting at the moment is the fact that, like, if you even look at our computer chips and things like that, we're not selling those to a lot of different countries out there because we don't want them to get the technology. So our government, in a lot of ways, and certain regulations, are actually encouraging the competition amongst us by saying we can't fall behind. That puts a lot of pressure on the industries as well, while at the same time, this fear and threat of other countries outcompeting us is always, I feel like it's present here.
Yeah, it's certainly present. And if you do regulate AI, for example, or if you constrain the companies, there is certain companies, if you constrain them, there's the risk that we fall behind in mostly technological advances, maybe healthcare as well, but not in, I don't know, the cereal that's on the kitchen counter, right? Like, I think that you can't make exceptions for people. And I think where it becomes really difficult, because I think we're all on the same page that done right, the government can regulate or essentially help the greater good of their country, but somebody has to decide what the greater good is, right? And my opinion on social media is not necessarily mirrored by the people who are in charge, right? And then it becomes, well, who are you to say what I can or cannot do, or what I can or cannot create, etc. And then it becomes about this like fiercely independent mentality that, is pushed to us as this is the American norm, right? So I think it's idealistic. And the reason that this is a hard problem to solve is because it's a hard problem to solve.
Yes, I agree
It's
with that.
also a hard problem to identify.
Yeah.
I think that it's a hard problem to identify because it's become so normal. And we think that we have to continue down this road of hustle and grind, and we don't have policies that will help people see a different way. So going back to your question of how do we create a system that supports people rather than causing burnout, it requires policies like paid parental leave, where we support new parents and allow them the time to bond with their children, where we support elderly people and provide the social supports that they need in order to live a healthy life through to the end. And currently that doesn't exist. And people also are going back to the idea of having to work multiple jobs and not getting benefits. I think it should be a human right to have health care and education. And these are the things that make a wealthy society. I heard Heather Cox Richardson talk on a podcast recently about the difference between a wealthy nation and a cash-rich nation. And I think there is a clear difference between them. They can be interconnected, but a wealthy nation has free, equal access to education and healthcare and retirement and paid parental leave, knowledge, creativity, all these things that make you well-rounded and lead to innovation. Because when you're just constantly pushing to make more and more and more money, you lose the joy of creating and coming up with new solutions.
Personally, for me, and going back to one of your other blog posts, you were talking about early phases of being a mother, and you had very limited time with Michaela, and you didn't have any time with Michaela because you had to work in the beginning. Like, how was that okay as a country that we're the best in the world at a lot of things, but you don't have those options? And I even look at my wife right now. She works for a major hospital organization, and she has to take out disability insurance to go on maternity leave.
Right.
It's not even offered to her.
Right.
Are you making an announcement?
No. No announcement. With that being said, though, if you look at some of these Scandinavian countries or even other countries, not just Scandinavia, but around the world, 6 months to a year of maternity leave. Right. And it's even the same thing for paternity leave as well. They get a huge amount of time because those are very important stages. And how can you raise and expect to have a very healthy country and economy if you can't put time in
Correct.
to children?
I would argue that most of our problems in society today would be solved if we gave every parent the time to bond with their child. We would not see the attachment style issues that lead to mental health disorders, to gun violence, to drug epidemics. All of these things, I think, really start at the core from our experience as infants. And so this is why I am an advocate for paid parental leave and things like that.
I think that's great. I think that it wouldn't solve all of our problems, but it would solve a lot of our
It
problems.
would solve so many that it would be a compound effect.
Yes. However, at the same time, we do have people out there that have their own pain and suffering that they push upon their children. And I'm not convinced that extra time for them to do that is necessarily a good thing, because their pain and suffering isn't always related to the fact that they have to go to work, right?
True.
If you look at the systemic issues in this culture along race and inequality, etc., time at home with your newborn won't solve that.
You're
It
right.
could make it worse.
Yes. And I think it has to go hand in hand with access to health care, and that includes mental health and also physical health, because if you're not physically healthy and you're stressed about being able to afford even just a regular checkup, how can you actually function in any area of life?
Well, I think, no one wants to hire a personal trainer that's 400 pounds and, is hanging out at home all the time. Like you want to be led by people and have people lead by example. And I think when it comes to our society, unfortunately, there are a lot of epidemics that aren't the best. And if you can offer more things like mental and physical help, that's huge. Going back to what you were saying, Wheeler, I was out to dinner. This was a while back, maybe a few months ago. And we were with a few couples, and someone was talking about the fact that they had all this maternity leave. And they were really talking about the fact how this person is going to go out for like 6 months. And these were two women that were talking, and I overheard their conversation. And they were saying, that's such crap. Now she's going to leave us with all of this work, and this is ridiculous. Like, why is maternity leave so long? And I'm like, these are two mothers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is insane that this is like, you're not supportive over this. Like, as a company, like, I would think that this is a fantastic benefit. But that just blew my mind that this is their mentality on things. And Kaylee was really upset about that.
Yeah. I think that also comes down to an issue of culture and systemic support. So if companies are also supported to provide their employees with the support they need to cover maternity leave of their colleagues, and it's not just about putting more and more work on everyone else's plate, but perhaps there's another way of alleviating that workload. And that gets to Adam Grant has talked about burnout being an issue of people just having too much on their plates.
Yeah. I think it comes down to like there's so many hurdles, and one of those hurdles is, well, I had to do this, so you should suffer the same way that I suffered.
Yeah.
That's the healthcare system
It's
right
the
now.
healthcare system. It's the education system. I had student loans, so you should have student loans, and I had to go back to work, so you should go back to work. 2
No one
weeks
gets a
after
free
you have
ride.
baby. Right?
Yeah.
And
But it's not always like that. And I think that there's a lot of, if you can see other people leading by example to say, I didn't have what I needed. So this is why I went and testified at the state level about my experience as a new mom. And when Michaela was in the NICU for 5 weeks, I was never given a postpartum depression screening, not once. So that blows my mind when I think about it. And fortunately, I don't think I had it, but I'll never know because I never got the screening. But so when I spoke about it, it wasn't about helping me or even my immediate friend group, because we've all had our babies. It's about helping the next wave of parents.
Well, we even talk about that in our own industry. I mean, I know, and you went through something similar. When I first started as a financial advisor, there were 92 kids in my class. And by the time we were done, I was one of two. And now I look at it, and a part of me is like, well, I went through absolute crap for 4 years. So for you to come in and, have this great opportunity, that kind of hurts me. But at the same time, I would rather there be better financial advisors in the world that can focus on the fact that they want to deliver good advice, good planning, all of this stuff, versus having that mentality. And it's the same thing with healthcare. I mean, my sister went through a ton of stuff becoming a surgeon, as did a ton of our other clients. And I appreciate the fact that you want other people to not get an easier ride than you, but wouldn't our healthcare system be better if you weren't working 80 to 100 hours a week? You're exhausted going into surgeries. You're having to put yourself through all of this. You're well rested. You have work-life balance. That's going to lead to more people and better people coming into the industry. It's tough.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I feel like I think too many people worry about things being fair. And fair does not mean equal. If we stopped worrying about what we deserve and what we think is fair, and we really just think about we care about other people instead of worrying about what's fair to us. I think this is something that they were talking about. We talked about in our last podcast, but Bernie Sanders was talking about, like, how Bezos, for example, should pay his fair share. It's impossible to determine what fair means, right? Should he pay more in taxes? Well, yeah, he already pays more in taxes than most people. Should he pay even more than that? Maybe, right? But we have to figure out what the need is. It's kind of like, what's the why behind that? What solution are we trying to solve? If we tax this, I don't know, level of wealth differently, will we be able to provide free education or free healthcare?
Yeah.
Or something like, what are we providing by doing this? Because then it's not about what's fair, it's about the goal, right? And how can we achieve the goal?
Well, that's what we were. Yeah, I totally agree with you. To elaborate on that even more, we were talking about the fact that I would be totally fine with paying more taxes. In fact, I would be happy to, if I knew it was going to social programs that were actually going to benefit us.
Right.
That's the problem that I see right now, is I have no idea where $1 of my taxes are going.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
you don't want to know.
I don't want to know. And we can blame administration and whatnot, but it's a system that was set up a long time ago that snowballed. And I'm a firm believer that it matters slightly who we have at the helm, but it's bigger than that.
It is bigger than the person in charge, 100%.
Yeah. I think you're bringing up an issue of equity versus equality.
Right.
And there's an important distinction there, which is that equity is about giving people what they need to be on equal playing ground with you, recognizing that not everyone starts at the same point. And I think if we were to solve this burnout issue, again, it's really about recognizing what are the problems we're trying to solve and getting on the same page with each other, that we will all benefit if we create a society where we're not all burned out, because we'll be more productive. We'll end up being a more innovative country.
Well, how many clients do we have a conversation with every week or every month about the fact that, you could retire early, but your healthcare costs are going to go through the roof and we have to delay it.
Right. Yeah.
Constantly. If healthcare was a basic human right as a United States citizen, that would solve a lot of problems right there.
So backing up a little bit, or maybe shrinking this down so it's not like we're trying to solve all the problems in the nation right now. If we think about burnout and rest and self-care, et cetera, we have a friend of ours who lives in California, and I was out visiting him, and he said, "I'm really lazy." And I looked at him and I'm like, "You are not lazy. What are you talking about?" Right? And I'm like, "You're not lazy. You just know when to rest."
That's smart.
Right? He's very intelligent to do that, but there's a guilt component, right? So how do you help people understand that they're doing what they need to do, what maybe it's just okay to do, even if it's a want instead of a need? Like, how do you remove the guilt and the pressure that everybody feels from the need for rest?
I'm really glad you brought up the guilt component, because it's real. It's also put upon us. So I think the guilt comes in when it's one of two reasons. One, you do what you need to do for yourself and you feel like society is telling you you should be doing something differently. So it's either that, or you do something, you agree to something, and it's a disconnect with your values. So it's either you choose your values over what society's values are, or you feel guilty if you think you should be doing something differently. And that is not something that we're born with. That's what's put on us.
I heard something the other day, signal versus noise, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the gentleman I was listening to was talking about how the most successful people that he knows are actually not very hardworking. And he goes, if you look at a lot of the major entrepreneurs out there, it's not that they work more hours or work harder. He goes, 9-to-5 jobs in a lot of cases don't make any sense, because you might not have that much work. To just be at the office to be at the office is pointless.
Sure.
Right.
but he was talking about the signal. If you can figure out what activities are going to yield the highest result, just accomplish those things, move on to something else. Those are the people that tend to be very successful and well-rounded. And I think that that's kind of what you're saying here.
Exactly. And I think that there is also a privilege component that you can't ignore, which is that it is possible for certain people to access this kind of lifestyle, but it should be accessible to everyone, which is going back to that idea of the pause. Having just a few minutes to breathe and center yourself before making a decision, that should be accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't feel guilty when we don't give someone the answer they're looking for immediately.
Yeah, I mean, we, in the client servicing industry, I feel like we have a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves, maybe even more than our clients put on us, to like get an answer.
But what I see is the more you do this and live this way, leading by example, the more you give other people permission to do the same thing. So our friend who, for whatever reason, identified himself as lazy, I look at as inspirational, because we all deserve to have moments like that. Like I asked Kaylee, how do you find the time and the mental capacity to take a nap? Because I want that. I want to be able to give myself permission to nap in the middle of the day. I feel like I would be much more productive if I did every once in a while. If I needed a nap, take it and don't feel guilty.
Something I envy about Kaylee, and my mom's the same way, is they say no. And whenever I ask my mom, I'm like, hey mom, like, you want to go out to dinner tonight? It's a beautiful night. No, my show's on. I'm good. Like, you go have fun.
Right.
And I'm like, you sure you don't want to go? She's like, no, not interested.
And when she does that, it gives you the permission to then...
to go do it, and I'm good.
And then the next time she asks you to do something and you don't want to do it, then you can say no, right?
Totally.
Because you're like, oh, yeah, she showed me that it's okay to say no if it doesn't fit with what I want in that moment.
I totally appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because someone saying no also takes a lot of pressure off of you.
Right.
Which I actually think is fantastic.
I think we have to allow, though, for ourselves to like remove all these things can sound loaded if they're put the wrong way. Like if somebody says, like, I usually take a nap right around 2:00, and you say, man, I wish I could do that. I have so many things I need to do, right? Like you're well-intentioned, but if somebody is sensitive about the fact, maybe Colin's always walking around saying, I can't believe you're taking another nap today.
Right.
And then you say something about it, and then,
I think that's why it's important to be like, I admire you for that, and I want to learn from you, because I would benefit in my life if I could do that better. And if I could turn off my brain a little bit more.
Choose your role models, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's about telling someone that you admire this about them, and that them talking about whatever it is that is their self-care practice, that you can also learn from it and give yourself permission to do the same.
So I would love to do a round robin here.
Ooh.
Okay.
What are the ways that you both recharge?
Jessica, you can go first.
So exercise is the first one. I think I try to pick my exercise routine. I work out about 5 days a week, and I sometimes high intensity cardio workout is what I need in that day. This morning, I knew I wanted to do a yoga, and that's what helped me recharge first thing in the morning.
So you feel fueled up after that.
Yeah. So I think exercise is the best way for me personally.
Nice.
But also just being able to have a creative practice. And I think this is something that I've started asking everybody I meet. Instead of what do you do for a living, I ask people, what do you do for fun? What do you do to be creative? And it catches people off guard, because we're not taught in the society to be creative just for the sake of being creative. We can be creative to sell what we create, but I think it's actually really important for all areas of our life. It makes us happier, more joyful, fulfilled, and allows us the energy to then go and be hardworking in other areas.
I find myself asking that question to a lot of people. What do you do for work? And subconsciously, you inherently assign value to that in some ways, whether it's positive or negative or whatever it might be, you know? And I think that the way that you ask it is a much better question.
But you're also assigning understanding. I feel like
It is,
the
of course.
question is
Yeah.
like, yes, it's there's probably not a lot of thought that goes into that question at this point. It's very like route, like we do it.
Yeah.
But
It's
it
just
also,
like a normal thing.
yeah,
Right.
but
you
it
ask.
does, you do understand something a little bit more about that person, and it provides for follow-up questions. And ideally, like, you know, there's some people who don't ask any follow-up questions. I usually find that to be the case, but yeah,
That's true.
I think like it's you're asking a great question when you ask what do you do for fun, and I've definitely tried to adopt not necessarily that, but maybe avoidance of asking, you know, what do you do for work? Because I agree that we define ourselves too much by work, but it is still a significant part of our lives, and
Absolutely.
it's worth
And
knowing.
usually conversations lend themselves to go there eventually.
Eventually.
But when you start out with what do you do for work as the first question, it tells the other person that's what you value
Yeah,
most. And
totally.
that's how I'm going to define you. And also, what about the people who don't do paid labor? And then they feel awkward, like, well, I'm just a mom. I hear that so often, and my heart breaks because it's such hard work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, really tough
fulfilling and
job.
joyful,
Full-time.
but also exhausting. and so I think with the way we define work is important.
Follow up on the conversation piece, because you're right. It probably would lend itself eventually to a conversation about what you do. But I'd much rather have a conversation with someone about their hobbies and the things that
Right.
they take joy in, because it's naturally going to bring up a happy emotion with them.
Exactly.
Versus if they're burned out from their job, they don't want to talk about that.
Yes.
And I find that to be the same way with me. If I go out and I've had a long day at work, last thing I want to do is talk more about work.
Right.
Yeah, I'm that way 100%. When I get home, I very rarely ever want to share about my day.
Yeah, me too. Kaylee's like, how was your day? And I'm like, it was good. What about you?
So how do you recharge, Colin?
Oh, we're going to me next.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say I recharge in probably two key ways. One of them healthier than the other. The first one is going to the gym. And I find myself getting burned out early afternoon to kind of late afternoon. So I like to have my workouts in the evening, because if I come home from a long day at work, I'm not engaged at home. And I get home and I'm like exhausted. I'm not full of conversation for Kaylee, who's ultimately who I want to talk to the most. And I find that if I can have a workout and recharge my batteries before I get home, then I'm much better when I get there. So that to me is my recharge. My other recharge is cocktails on the weekend with friends. I love it. I love going to a cocktail bar.
Love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
socializing with people, the bartender.
Okay. So what I hear there is because it connects to your value of connection and relationships.
Totally. Yeah, I just love being amongst like people and energy.
Right. I think what we're getting to here is the importance of understanding your values. So when you do all of these practices, like whether it be cocktails on the weekend with friends or working out at the gym, it's important to understand the why behind it and the principles that are guiding what you're choosing to do for recharging, for self-care. Because there's the tools, the things that we do externally that fulfill us or are intended to recharge us. And then there's the more internal self-care, which is about understanding what is the value that's driving you to go to the gym or to go to cocktails with friends.
That's a good thought. I hadn't ever thought about it. You just do it because it feels good.
Right. Well, and we're often told you should work out X number of days per week. Then it becomes an obligation.
Yeah.
And you lose connection with your why.
Yeah. When I had a poison ivy spell a few weeks ago, I couldn't go to the gym for a while, and it was kind of depressing. And even sometimes when you're on vacation, I don't know if you guys felt this, but when you're not in your routine, sometimes that's tough too. You know,
Absolutely.
having a routine is fun, I find.
This is why I went for a run in both London and Paris. It's just like I needed to get out there and do something, and it wasn't like a pressure.
So tell me about your recharge.
So I would love to say that exercise recharges me, and I think it does energize me, but it's usually happening earlier in the day, so it's not really a recharge for me. I think the things that recharge me, I agree with you about going out and having a drink with a friend. I think that is really hugely beneficial for me. I also find going to the movies very recharging, because when I'm doing it right, I'm not looking at my phone and checking in with Jess or our daughter, and I'm just kind of like engaged, sitting there watching a story without the rest of the world bothering me for, well, now it's like 2.5 hours. but
You could see longer movies.
yeah, well, you could, but the problem is they're also darn long. It's harder
Yeah,
for me to
that's
find
true.
time to do it. And that's where I'm failing. I don't make time to go out and just, go to a local brewery with a friend. And when I do make time to go to the movies, I'm always thinking about what I'm taking away from. I'm taking away from work. I'm taking away from family time. I feel like I'm really, really bad at this.
Yes, you are. And
The guilt side of things.
right. And so I think actually you're raising an excellent point that the difference between real self-care and this going through the motions because I should do this in order to recharge is what will leave you feeling like it was worth it or not in the end. So you can have 2 people go to the movies. Let's take that as the example. One person goes to the movies and they sit there the whole 2.5 hours thinking about all the other things they have to do afterward. The guilt about leaving their significant other home with the kids, whatever it is. And they leave the movies then feeling more stressed out than when they went in. The other person talked to their significant other ahead of time, like, I'd like to go see this movie. Does this work with our schedule? They are able to go and actually just relax and say, there's going to be plenty of time to get the other things on my to-do list done later. I am allowed this time for myself. The 2 people went and did the same exact thing, but left feeling very differently, right?
Yeah.
It's because of the work that you put in internally ahead of time.
The framing of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's important not to just do the things, the massages, the bubble baths, this is all, I have to credit one of my mentors, parasocial mentors, never actually met her, but Dr. Pooja Lakshmi, and she has a great book called Real Self-Care. And she talks about the difference between the internal work and the tools, the external things that we do, which can help us to recharge, but we can't rely on the external things without putting in the internal work.
Parasocial mentors. That's a good one.
I like that a lot, actually. Yeah. Have you guys seen the movie Air? The one about Nike?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
a
That was
great
very
movie.
good.
It was a great
Air.
movie, but
Yeah.
Ben Affleck has a quote in that. It was towards the end, and he was talking about running.
Yeah.
And he was asking Matt Damon, do you run? And Matt Damon was like, look at me. And of course I don't run. And
Yeah.
he goes, well, the purpose of running, and this is kind of what you were saying, isn't the fact that you're going to run 5 miles or do a 10K or whatever the metric is. The purpose of the run is the agony of the run. He goes, it's the recharge in the run. That's the reason why you run. It's not to accomplish something.
Right.
And it's kind of like when you go to the movies, it's not necessarily to see a movie. It's the experience of the movie and the recharge in the movie. And it's the same thing, like why I do what I do or you do with the yoga. It's not actually to just do yoga. It's the process of it
Right,
that
and
gives you that feeling.
With yoga, everyone could have a different reason for doing yoga. It could be going to a yoga class and connecting with a sense of community. It could be doing it at home and just feeling connected to your body and having a mind-body connection. So I think, oh, by the way, with Air, I loved that movie, how it really explored the idea of breaking rules in order to innovate.
Totally.
So, side note, I loved that movie.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah,
movie.
maybe I'll rewatch that tonight. But yeah, that's a good one.
All right, so we're running long, and we can go on forever with this, but we're not going to. So, any final thoughts, parting thoughts, Colin? Any final parting thoughts?
I think it's refreshing. We're often in the weeds of the business 24/7, and it's nice to kind of take a step back and recognize the fact that I may be burned out in some areas of life, and that I may need a recharge in certain areas because when you do recharge, you produce better work.
Yeah.
And you do a better job. And when we're in the service industry, I think that's important, in not just service, but in any job. So it's nice to have you on and talk through these things because I find it personally helpful.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I can't turn my brain off. I was up at 4:30 this morning because
What are you doing?
I was thinking about clients, and I was thinking about Loom, and I was literally emailing.
You were
Tori at
emailing
like
very
6
early.
a.m.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm sorry. So like it is hard especially when we're running this business, right? So it's not just the service part of it, it's everything else. And we care about all this, and we care about our families, and we care about the world, which has also been putting a lot of pressure on me lately. So I think it's really hard to take a step back and think about what we could do differently. And I think ultimately the theme is, or the message is, let's just slow down sometimes, right? It doesn't have to be all the times. We don't always have to move like a sloth, but occasionally get into sloth mode.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Right?
Do less.
No.
I think it really comes down to, earlier you mentioned work-life balance, and I think that is bullshit.
I think it's totally toxic. I hate
think
that.
That is part of the problem. We're taught that you're supposed to strive for work-life balance, and it doesn't exist. First of all, work is part of life, as if it's two separate things that you're balancing.
Yeah.
No, it's more about work-life boundaries and how you can make work for you and to feel fulfilled at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing I really want people to remember is that burnout is not your fault. So if you're feeling burned out, just remember it is not your fault. Your inability to manage stress, it's about the systems that are set up so that we continue hustling and grinding like machines.
That's a great place to end.
It's a perfect place to end it.
Thank you, Jessica, for joining us and
Thanks
being
for
our
having
first
me.
guest.
Yes, this was perfect. And like and subscribe, share with a friend.
Yes. So especially now that we have Jess on, everybody's going to pay attention to us.
That's true.
So,
This
all
is
right.
going to go viral.
Thanks,
Just
all.
wait.
Burnout isn't just a buzzword. It's a real and growing issue that impacts individuals, teams, and entire organizations around the world. As we discussed, it's even been recognized by the World Health Organization, and it's something we should all be paying closer attention to. One of the biggest takeaways from today's conversation is the reminder that recharging isn't optional, it's essential. Whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, finding consistent ways to reset is key. And as Jess pointed out, leading by example matters. If you want a culture that supports balance, you have to embody it yourself, especially in the workplace. This is something I personally struggle with, and I understand firsthand how easy it is to relentlessly go in an attempt to do everything all at once. But I guess recognizing that you have a problem is the first place to start. We hope this episode gave you a chance to pause, reflect, and maybe even rethink the way you approach your own well-being. This was our first episode with a guest, and it won't be the last. We had a great time, and we're excited to bring even more voices into future conversations. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tune in next week for more. Until then, take care of yourself. You deserve it.
Compound Growth with Wheeler and Colin, sponsored by Ko-Fi Advisors. Reach out today. Yay!